Hi there, this is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video, we're discussing H is for Homicide, written by Sue Grafton. It's book 8 in the Alphabet Murder series. Another good book in this series, not the strongest book in this series for me, but what it does, it takes the main character, Kinsey Millhone, out of her comfort zone, way out of her comfort zone, into a whole new type of investigation. So in this book, she's investigating insurance fraud. And it ties into where she does part-time work and where she rents office space from. But it's a great introduction to a whole different type of case in this series. And it keeps the series fresh. So while it's not my favourite book in the series, I give it quite a good rap for keeping the series fresh and putting Kinsey in a different situation in the entire series and in her world. At the start of this book, Kinsey's returning home. She's been on a weeks-long insurance investigation. It's taking her to all different corners of the state. And she just wants to get home, relax, get to her, home base, get to her creature comforts, all that sort of thing. When she sneaks into the office, I think it's on a weekend, she wants to go to the office just to see what's up, get mail, whatever she needs to do. She sees all these police cars around, and she finds out that a recent new employee at the insurance firm has been shot, and he's dead. And Kinsey's quite upset about this because she made friends with this guy and they haven't known each other very long, maybe a couple of months, but they were becoming quite good friends. And it does hit her a bit hard. So she's, drawn into this because she wants to know what happened. Why did her friend get shot? On top of this, she finds out that a company troubleshooter is coming. His name's Gordon Titus. Now, he's there to solve some problems for them. So they're losing revenue, basically. And for an insurance company or a branch of an insurance company to lose revenue, that's not a good thing. So he's there to shake things up a bit, try to cut corners, maybe cut costs, try to find out how they can get back into the black. Kinsey's not too happy about this, but she thinks it won't affect her that much because she's not a permanent employee of the company. She's more like just a contractor for them. So she thinks, it's smooth sailing for her. But while she's there, she's also given a troublesome case to look after. And this was a case that the guy who was shot was first looking into, and he flagged it as a possible insurance fraud. And Kinsey has a bit of expertise in this type of cases. She's been asked to have a look at it. And they think if she can have a look at this and get a win for their branch, then it'll be, some gold stars for their branch. And it might give this guy, Gordon Titus, a bit less leverage to do more damage in their branch. The case Kinsey's looking into involves a woman called Bibiana Diaz. Kinsey thinks the best way to go about this is to try to befriend Bibiana, try to get on a good side, and then try to weasel information out of her, and then take that back to the insurance firm and, let the insurance firm or the police have at her. So she goes about doing that. She develops this whole persona. She sets out to meet Bibiana maybe at a club or a bar or something, and just to make friends with her. And she's doing that quite well in this book. But then this other guy turns up. And it's a guy that Kinsey knew, one from her school days, and also from her days on the force. And this guy was a policeman. He's not on the force now, we find out, because he was on the take. He was a bit of a dirty cop. He's there now, and he's dating Bibiana. Or they're very friendly. And so Kinsey just assumes that they're dating. But this could be a problem for her because this guy knew that she was a cop at one stage, and he knows now that she's a PI. So will this guy, Jimmy Tate, spill the beans to Bibiana about who Kinsey really is? What Kinsey doesn't know at the start is that Bibiana is on the run from her ex-fiancé called Raymond. And Raymond is a bit of a crook. He's got a gang, and he runs this big insurance fraud scheme. And it's very big, it makes a lot of money. But he's also very violent. He's very jealous, he's very violent, he's quite vicious. And he wants Bibiana back. These people turn up, and it ends up being Raymond's brother and sister-in-law. They turn up to take Bibiana back by force. There's a shootout that happens. Raymond's brother gets shot and dies, and he's shot by Jimmy Tate. All the police arrive on the scene. Bibiana gets caught up, with the police, gets arrested because she tries to attack one of the police officers, and just to keep on Bibiana's good side and to make sure that she knows where Bibiana is at all times, Kinsey sets about getting herself arrested as well, and she ends up being thrown in jail with Bibiana. While Kinsey's in jail, Sergeant Dolan has a word to her in secret in an interview room and sets about giving her a proposal. They will forgive the charges against her because she did assault a police officer. They'll forgive all that if she goes undercover. And she has to go undercover and investigate Raymond's gang. And Raymond is this vicious guy. This guy who's quite brutal, quite vicious, very unpredictable, and is Bibiana's ex-fiancé. But Raymond thinks of himself as Bibiana's fiancé, not ex-fiancé, and he wants her back very much. They both get out of prison, they get bailed out, and Raymond picks them both up and takes them back to his house, or his apartment really. It's a small apartment, and it's quite dirty, the apartment as well. So when Kinsey first walks in, the first thing she notices is, one, there's a big dog there, but also it's quite dirty. And she doesn't know how to cope with that because she's quite a tidy and clean person, our Kinsey. I won't go into any more details of the plot from here because this is where a lot of twists happen and a lot of excitement happens. So Kinsey's undercover, living with these people undercover, and she has to investigate them, find evidence of their crimes so she can take it back to the police. And this plot, even though it's not my favourite book in the series, there are some parts of this plot that are quite exciting, but there are some parts that drag a lot. And I thought that there are quite a few moments in when she's living with them in the apartment that did drag on. There are a few comic relief moments as well. I mean, the dog there called Perro, he's a big dog, he's a pit bull, I think from memory. Kinsey's quite afraid of him at first, and for good reason, because he keeps growling at her and at one stage charging at her even though he's chained up. So quite a scary dog for her to deal with. So she's got a scary dog, scary people, living in this apartment 24/7 basically, and undercover. And she's quite afraid for herself this time, in this case. It's the first time she's been undercover as a PI, and she's very much afraid for her life, basically, while living there. There's one funny observation from Kinsey about the dog Perro in this book, and it was a laugh out loud moment for me. She's sitting in a lounge room watching TV with the dog and one of the criminals, and she keeps looking at the dog, and I just found this very funny. The dog stared at me intently through the car chases and canned laughter, and if I chanced to glance at him, he seemed to squint his little eyes. I just found that very humorous, especially when you get to know the dog more, because the dog's quite vicious at this stage. For a Sue Grafton book, the plot is quite simple, and there are other books in the series that have a more complex plot and a more engaging plot, more enjoyable. So I found this one just a little bit on the boring side, a little bit slow in places, and I found Kinsey, even though they shifted her out of her comfort zone, she was a little bit stagnant. She didn't get to move around as much as she does in her other books. So I found that a little bit disappointing as well. So Bibiana Diaz, now this character is written quite well. She's a loose cannon, she's up and down a lot. She's very consistent though, so she's very brash at the start, very brave, a lot of bravado, shows off a lot, but then when Raymond turns up, she changes completely and you see her being very meek and almost browbeaten. But Sue Grafton writes that quite well because you can see the change and understand why that change happened. So we see Bibiana is changing because as a result of being a victim of violence in the past from Raymond, and so you can see that and you can feel all that in Bibiana's character, the way she's described through Kinsey's eyes. So very cleverly written, this character, and very clever to give us all that through Kinsey's eyes, in my opinion. Raymond was very skillfully written. So Raymond in this book is a character that has Tourette's. So he has a lot of nervous tics, and then he has a lot of anger as well. So he can get angry for no reason and in a very short period, like a snap anger. And his tics are described in quite graphic detail in the book as well. So Sue Grafton did this quite skillfully, and I guess with a lot of compassion and respect for people who may suffer from Tourette's. So it's not done in a condescending way. It shows Tourette's and explains what it is, but doesn't condescend to people who suffer from it or to the reader. And I found that was a very good way, in a very skillful way, presenting this character. Apart from the Tourette's, Raymond is very consistent in just how vicious and how unpredictable and how illogical he is sometimes in his thinking. And I thought that was very well done as well, because you just get a sense of this character that can snap at any moment, who's very unstable, who hasn't got a lot of control of his emotions and is very dangerous. And I have to mention Perro in this section. Perro the dog, the pit bull, who's at the apartment with all the gangsters. I like this dog a lot. Even though I'm not a fan of pit bulls, this dog is a great character in this book. He starts off as being quite vicious, and Kinsey is very afraid of him, edging around him in the apartment. And the apartment's not very big, so she has to kind of hug the walls to get around him, and he's always glaring at Kinsey and growling. But then there's scenes in the book where they're quite close, and they sort of become friends in a way, and I quite like that as well, because it just shows that this dog has different sides to his character. He's got this rough outside, but he's also just seeking a bit of comfort, a bit of compassion. And I thought that was just a good moment in this book, and Perro the dog ends up being quite a good character in my eyes. While not being my favourite book in this series, and being a little bit stagnant, keeping Kinsey in the one place for most of the book, I still rate this a 3.5 out of 5. The mystery was okay, wasn't that complex, and the plot wasn't very complex either, but some of the characters were really well written, and the observations of Kinsey were really good in this book as well. And there's a big change for Kinsey at the end of this novel. I'm not going to give that away, but you have to read it to the end to find out what that change is. But it has potential to change the whole series in a certain way. That was interesting as well, and a good addition to the end of this book. As I read through every book in this series, I will do a book review and put it up on my channel. If you don't want to miss out on those videos, check out my channel and subscribe. Also, check out the Sue Grafton playlist. Should be on your screen now.